With the second pick of the 2024 MLB Draft, the Cincinnati Reds select Chase Burns.
Is hammered down the left field line and way gone. A solo home run for Alfredo Duno.
Collier swats one into left field, testing the line. That is down a base hit. Rogers is coming around third. He will score. To replace him at second is Cam Collier with a stand-up double.
Line it short, up in the air. Arroyo steals a base hit.
A swing and a fly ball down the left field line, hooking toward the corner. It is a fair ball, and it is gone. Home run re-signs.
Make it two! Cano jumps on the first pitch and lines it to right. Move crosses the plate, and the Tortugas will not say die tonight.
Lewis takes inside, throw to second, is on a hop, and it is not in time. And there is stolen base number 50 for Kyle Headley.
There's a swing and a fly ball into center. Dunn going back on the warning track, leaps to the wall, makes the catch. Dunn hauled it in. Ball game over.
Swing, here's a well-hit ball to right field. Moving back to the wall. Campbell, that ball is gone! This game is tied!
That's airborne into the gap, into right field. Diving forward and making the catch is Hendrick.
Ian Fu with a skyscraping blast out to right. Daytona is on the board.
There's a swing and a fly ball to left. Rodriguez turns around. It's gone just over the wall into the seats. Home run, Sal Stewart. Kind of a high liner. It got out of here in a hurry. Fly ball center field. Jorge there. And it is caught. Campanon cut in front and caught the ball. Put this game in the win column. Put this winning streak at 14. It's a new club record.
Righty sends. Hendrick signs. Drives it out into right field. That's going to be the ball game. Look out, Wade. Look out, Wade. Hendrick comes through. What a play. What a bat for Hendrick, the fans, and the Chattanooga Lookouts.
Welcome to Red Hot Reds Minor League Mondays, a podcast specifically and exclusively dedicated to the Reds minor league system, hosted by myself, Roger Strauss, and Reds on SI writer Ricky Logan. Welcome to Minor League Mondays. We are live today. Last time, if you tuned in, we did a show on the top 30 refreshed for us, the Red Hot Reds top 30 prospects, and we really appreciate all you guys that viewed that, tuned in, commented, liked, subscribed, all that. It's been really, really great so far. Also, shout out to Ricky again for that great intro. Really appreciate all the calls and everything he put together for that. If you really listen in, you can hear all those guys that really make the minor leagues for the Reds really special. And we're glad that you're here, glad that you're watching. Welcome to the show. We're live on a Monday. We did it again yesterday, and we're live again. Hopefully, we got enough in the tank to do the show again, Ricky, and not lose our voice or anything. But how you been since yesterday?
Pretty well. Excited to talk some minor league baseball.
Yeah. We were hoping at this point, the year where the 26-man's finalized for the big league club. We're not exactly sure what AAA and AA are going to look like fully on their rosters. We have a decent idea. We have, some inclinations and takes of what the Louisville bats are going to look like, what the Chattanooga lookouts are going to look like. And there were some roster moves as well that we can highlight just to kind of get off the bat. We can lead into our topics after that if you're ready for that, Ricky. But a guy like Ryan Cardona, a guy that we kind of liked at AA, got released, and we're not exactly sure why, what the real main reason is there. But neither here nor there. He's not going to be with the ball club anymore pitching. Austin Callahan also released, another guy that played AA last year. They did sign a catcher because Connor Burns was injured in the 60-day IL. Pablo Aliendo is his name. And we can talk about these guys once we get into the hitters and pitchers and whatnot. But that will be interesting to see how he does. He's a little bit older, I think like 24, 25 years old. I think in the Cubs system for a little bit, had decent years in 23 and 24. But yeah, a guy that will fill in while I think Connor is going to be rehabbing for whatever injury he's got going on there. But yeah, it's an interesting time because both of these rosters for AAA and AA have to get down to 28. And I use Fangraphs to kind of give me an indication of what possibly where these guys may or may not land. And it looks like there's a lot of guys in AAA from, according to Fangraphs, they'll have to trim down and put down into AA or I don't know, release possibly if there's opt-outs and whatnot. But I don't know, Ricky, any thoughts on those guys and the transactions that occurred in the last couple days?
Yeah, I was kind of surprised by Cardona being released just because of the depth at the position. But other than that, I mean, if we're letting some of those guys go, that we have better depth ahead of them, and you hate to see guys lives get changed like that, and you get moved on from, but yeah, it's just part of the game, and they'll land somewhere else and maybe find themselves in a better situation for them. And a better situation for them isn't always the better situation for the Reds. And, Cardona was one that was kind of surprising to me.
Yeah, Cardona pitched in 24 games last year for the Lookouts. Not a terrible season, 106 innings, was at 4.64 ERA. So not the worst stuff. And obviously he actually got a little bit of action up at AAA. It looks like a couple games there. So, he seemed like a guy that's maybe on the verge. Maybe it's just a logjam. As we know, the AAA club has a bunch of starting pitching, whether that be, Jose Franco and whatnot that we'll talk about later and some other guys. But, it could just be like there's not enough spots for him to be a part of this organization anymore. And, yeah, we wish him the best of luck going forward and everything. We also, wish that Connor Burns gets back healthy because we talked about him, I think, actually in a show that will come out later this week about catchers in our system. But the Reds are really high on Connor Burns, and him getting injured at this time when there's a little bit of uncertainty of what the 2027 catching situation is going to be for the Redlegs. Last year control for Ty Steve. Trevino will be here presumably, but we will have to see if, hopefully Connor Burns can bounce back and maybe make it in the AAA this year. Maybe. We'll hit on that in a little bit. But yeah, any other thoughts before we launch into the pitchers to watch?
No.
So AA pitchers to watch. This is an interesting category because we don't know exactly, like I said at the top of the show, who is going to be in this category. We know a bunch of guys that could move up to AAA, but like I said, Cardona didn't have enough space. So there may be some situation where the logjam doesn't allow for, example, a guy like Trevor Kunsel. We had kind of predicted on this show plenty of times that he may be a AAA because of the fantastic season he had at Chattanooga, all-star, 20 or 30 saves, I believe, as a closer role down there, like sub 2-3 ERA. So he had a lot. If he is in AA, I guess that would definitely be, for me, the first guy for pitcher to watch because of all the fact that we got a lot of talent in the bullpen at AAA right now. But any first guys that come to mind for pitchers to watch at AA?
Yeah, so according to Fangraphs, they have Luke Hayden at AA. I'm kind of interested to see what he does. He had a pretty solid season last year. And then I guess if I had to pick another one, they have Julian Garcia, who they picked up as a free agent this season, off-season, as projected to start in AA. Luke Hayden, he kind of climbed up the board a little bit last season. If I remember right, he wasn't a top 30 prospect, and then he climbed up to be a top 30 prospect. And if I don't think is he currently a top 30 prospect? I think he fell back off.
Right.
Kind of a local kid for the Reds. He went to Indiana State. He's from Bloomington, Indiana. He was 4-7 last year with a 4.09 ERA and 101 innings, 79 strikeouts with I just lost the numbers here. 72 walks. A lot of walks last year. Really plagued him, but he's one of those kids that, I think Double A might help him as opposed to Dayton. I think the balls just kind of fly out of Dayton, especially when you come from the Florida State League from Daytona, and then you get that promotion to Dayton. But yeah, he's got some good pitches. He's 6'1". He's not undersized, and I think he could be someone to really keep an eye on to kind of earn that rank back up into the top 30 prospect rankings, especially with Sal Stewart eventually coming off. And I would assume that Zach Maxwell comes off that list at some point this season too. So that's going to open up at least 2 spots.
Yeah, the thing about Hayden, I remember he got off to a really hot start. We profiled him a bunch on our 3 Up 3 Down segment, I believe, on Sundays, where he came out the box really rip roaring to go. Like, we thought Adam Saranowski was going to be that guy in Dayton. He ended up getting traded, but Hayden kind of trailed off at the end of the year and then went into the Arizona Fall League, got a little bit dinged up there as well. The guy I'm also really interested in is Jonathan Harmon. I think even in our interview we did with him, he said his goal was to get to Chattanooga, and I think maybe this might be his chance this year to get Chattanooga, get going there. Hopefully, have a good. He was also another guy in the Arizona Fall League who pitched pretty well. That was a good thing to see because we had a bunch of guys. Even Carrick's throwing up there. I believe Kevin Abel was also out there in Arizona for a little bit, and Hunter Parks as well. So I think Kevin Abel came late or something like that, and he pitched maybe an inning or something like one solitary inning in the Arizona Fall League. But also I'd like to point out the Jose Montero guy. Like he came in, I think, the prospects game, the spring breakout game. And he looked decent, and really that's another guy, another player to watch at Double A. Hopefully he'll get his chance at Chattanooga this year.
Yeah, for sure. It's like what's awesome about the spring breakout game is you get to see all the prospects that normally wouldn't play together, and you're basically looking at the future of the club in one game. And it was cool seeing you start with Chase Petty and you go all the way down to Aaron Watson, who was the Reds' 2nd round pick last year. It's fun, but yeah, Jonathan Harmon's another one too. Like when you mentioned him, just. He had the setback with the Tommy John. Had he not had that, he probably already is in Double A. And there's a pretty solid chance because according to FanGraphs, they've only got 6 pitchers on the Double A roster. Yep. So I know he only pitched in Dayton last year, but I think there's a really good chance that he's called up to maybe even debut in Chattanooga this year.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, a couple of relievers to shout out. Carrick's thrown in there as well. Simon Miller, who I think they list for our FanGraphs research. He's at AAA, but he'll probably be Double A. I think he's made a couple appearances in the spring. Not look too hot. I remember he might have been even in the game that I went to against the Royals. Got beat up a little bit. Cody Adcock, Joseph Menifee, Will Cannon. Those would be some pretty nice guys. Another guys to possibly keep an eye on. Nick Sando might be a guy that may be up in Double A in the bullpen, and Easton Sikorsky possibly. We'll see. We'll have to again. We have to kind of all preface this that we don't know exactly the rosters at this point. Hopefully, those will become apparent to us and be able to share that with you, so that way you can figure out where your guy is. That where Harmon ends up, or where Luke Hayden ends up, or Trevor Kunsel. We'll be definitely posting that everywhere on our socials once we get confirmation of all that good stuff. But
and I got one more reliever I'd like to talk about a little bit, and that's Bryce Hubbard. He started the year last year in Daytona. Wasn't great. He was 2-0, but he had a 6.03 ERA in 14 games as a reliever. He had a save in 2 save opportunities. Walks kind of got to him. He was hit at a 319 average in Daytona, but when he got promoted to Dayton, he kind of turned it around a little bit. He pitched in 11 2/3 innings, gave up 11 hits. He gave up 1 home run, but the batting average against him dropped almost by half. He was 319. He ended it with 250, moving up a level. Granted, less opportunities to get hits against him, but he had 9 strikeouts, 6 walks, but I think he's a little on the older side for Double A. He's 24. He turns 25 in June. He was the Reds' 3rd round pick, in 2022 out of Florida State, and he's a lefty. So I think that's going to be anytime you got a left-handed pitcher, you got to keep an eye on him, just because lefties are very important to a major league bullpen. And at the minor league level, you're going to be maybe prioritized a little bit more being a lefty, but he's someone I'd like to keep an eye on this year.
Yeah, for sure. That'd be great. And we'll move on then to our double-A hitters to watch. This will be very interesting because some of our guys that we've been keeping tabs on that may be moving up a level, maybe not. We'll see. There are guys like a guy that I followed through the Arizona Fall League as well. Leo Balcazar is assigned to Double-A and probably going to be the everyday shortstop there, even though he does have some positional flexibility. Played second a bunch and third base a bunch in the Arizona Fall League and various other places like spring training and whatnot. So we'll definitely keep an eye on Leo, and I think is also a guy the Reds are really, really big on to add him to the 40-man roster to avoid the Rule 5 draft back in December. So that's somebody to keep tabs on. He's still like a top 15 on the top 30 list, right? I believe I'm forgetting what he is on ours, but for sure he's a top 15. I want to say in the Reds organization, top 30 prospects. So that's one of my guys that definitely are going to be keeping tabs on at Chattanooga, especially since he'll be playing every day, to see what kind of production he'll have at shortstop there for your lookouts. What guys are you looking at, Ricky, for Double-A hitters?
Yeah, so Fangraphs has Cam Collier starting out in Double-A, which sounds about right just based off the season he had last year with the injury. But I think I've been on record 100 times. I'm a huge fan of Cam Collier, and I don't think he's going to be in Double-A very long. I think he's going to have a bounce back season, and he's been my candidate to have that Sal Stewart type season, to where you catch at every level, and it just you force your way onto the big league club. I'm not saying he forces his way onto the big league club, but he could be knocking on the door this season should everything work out. And he's been hitting the ball hard, and that was kind of the issue with last season, just not hitting the ball as hard as he normally did. And I think you can attribute that to the thumb injury and the rehab from that process. But yeah, Cam, he's kind of been that forgotten prospect from a lot of guys just because he did have that down year last year, but not to me. I'm a big fan of Cam, and I'm excited to see what he does this year. Hopefully healthy the whole season. And if he goes the way I think he goes, I think he's up in AAA by July.
Yeah. He did have a shortened season, but he came back and worked hard to get back into it. I mean, he went through all the levels after the spring training thumb injury. He went to ACL complex. He went to Daytona for like a week, and then a week in Dayton, and then like a week to Chattanooga to get like revved back up to actually start playing full time again. Another Arizona Fall League guy who I think you mentioned that he hit like a 450-foot home run line drive to smack
it was like 111 off the bat. It was insane.
So we think that it obviously, we have like a McLean example and a Arroyo example where they've had some back, like they took a step back because of their injury and had to kind of work themselves back up to getting that strength again. Probably the same. I'd like to say the same deal for Cam, getting back to that strength and driving the ball like we know he can.
Yeah, it's like going back to 2024. He played in 119 games. He hit 248, and I believe he had 20 home runs. So he really put it all together. I think he had 7 home runs in April. Like he started the year out on fire, and things happen. You go in slumps, whatever it may be. But if he can get back to the 2024 Cam or even the 2023 Cam, like just hitting the ball hard and playing in more spacious outfields, especially with like Chattanooga's ballpark, being a little bit bigger than Dayton's ballpark, just space wise, and then eventually getting it up to AAA where you're getting closer to that major league caliber stadiums. And yeah, I'm just excited to see what he does with, higher levels of pitching, because I think, like I said, I think he's a candidate to really catch on this year.
Yeah, for sure. Quick question. Do you think he's everyday first base, or they're moving him around first base, third base in Chattanooga?
I think they're going to have to move him around. Just if the plan is to get him up to the major league level, I think they're going to have to move him around. I wouldn't even be opposed if you teach him an outfield spot just to have that flexibility. I know it's a lot, especially for a young kid. He's always been an infielder, but yeah, I think we had talked about around this time last year when we talked about our minor league preview,
Yeah.
just the future of the Reds infield, and I think I had Sal Stewart at third and Cam Collier at first. We were kind of projecting into like that 2027, 28 class of prospects. And now that Sal Stewart's kind of transitioned into that first base role, I don't want to put Cam in a box of being just a DH because I think he's more than that. I think his defense is kind of underrated, but I think he might have to go back to third base and just be a more consistent third baseman, which he hasn't been bad over there either. And it's just, when you got Ke'Bryan Hayes ahead of you defensively, it's kind of makes anybody look bad just because it's Ke'Bryan Hayes. He's just a wizard. But yeah, I think like that would be a good thing to do would be at least give him a lot of defensive flexibility just to see what he's got.
For sure. Yeah. Just one more comment before we're moving on. A good show is to put out there a lineup, Reds lineup, predict the Reds lineup of 2030. If there's no baseball season or there's a delay, we'll have lots of off-season content for you, Carrick, and everybody else that's out there. For sure, this kind of stuff, projecting the future and what have you, and what baseball will look like. I wonder what baseball will look like in 2030, to be honest with you. But that's a future show. I do want to shout out, like Carrick said, like Carlos Jorge, Anthony Stephan, Shane Sasaki, a guy they signed in the offseason, is projected to be an outfielder for the AA club. And then our guy Jay Allen, the second, is going to be there probably a second season. So we'll see. It's kind of some prove-it years for a couple of these guys like Jorge and Allen. And Sasaki's got to prove it because he's the new guy. I wonder what that's going to look like in terms of the at-bats that all these guys are going to be getting on a regular basis. So we'll keep tabs on that to see their progress and see how it's been going. And I don't know if this is technically a AAA topic, but there's the guy I haven't mentioned yet, your guy in the outfield for your Chattanooga Lookouts. Do we want to go there?
We can go there. I think they have him projected on Fangraphs to start in AAA. He's never going to see the field with the AAA outfield that they have.
Yeah,
because you've got JJ Bleday, Hector Rodriguez, Blake Dunn, and Reese Hines all ahead of him. He's if you're really interested in his development, Hendrick's a better option to have than Shane Sasaki and Anthony Stephan. No offense to those guys. Hendrick's power last year really kind of returned, and he was a little bit more consistent last year. And I get it. He's 24. That would be technically his third consecutive season in AA. It doesn't look good when you look at it on paper, but when you look at the Reds' depth chart ahead of him, you can kind of understand why you would make that move. But yeah, that's sad because I was so excited to see him just one step away from the major leagues. And, it's just the Reds, like, just kind of going through Fangraphs AAA. And we'll get to it eventually, I know, but Bleday, Rodriguez, Dunn, Hines, Ivan Johnson, and Austin Hendrick, like, he's not going to see the field. So I think unless they do, like, him as a DH, but then, like, I don't know. I don't know what you do. It's just that's a tough decision to make.
Yeah. The little ripples and consequences of like the Nathaniel Lowe making the major league team, and then Bleday kind of being assigned down. We kind of knew Blake Dunn and Reese Hines were going to be in AAA, but we didn't know that also that was going to include JJ as well, right? Like so that kind of pushes them a little bit further down, like you said, on the depth chart. So we'll see. Sometimes injuries happen, opportunities arise. Hopefully your guy will be ready to take those opportunities, and go out and grab them. So we'll keep eyes on that and as well.
We'll be rooting for him.
For sure. But,
Pro Austin show.
Yeah, Pro Austin show for sure. Any other thoughts on the AA hitters before we moving on?
Just if I had to name somebody else that I'm really keeping an eye on was Anthony Stephan. He had a really good. Like I know Carrick mentioned him in the chat, but he had a really good. I think he had a good hitting streak going on last year for a bit, and
Rotating, yeah.
yeah. So I'm interested to see what he does at a level up.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see. AAA pitchers, man. I mean, just top to bottom, out of all these four units that we broke down for the rundown, it might be the strongest unit. Like AAA pitchers compared to AA pitchers, AA hitters, AAA hitters. Like this is stacked top to bottom, whether it's the starters to the relievers and basically everything in between. Because like we were pretty sure that the AAA starting rotation is going to be strong. And even though Brandon Williamson is up at the big league club, it's still pretty solid. I guess just to point out one guy for sure, and I won't go the obvious guy. The one guy for sure I want to really keep tabs on is Julian Aguiar. I saw him live in person, and he pitched pretty well. Unfortunately, was reassigned that next day.
You have that effect.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about that. Anyway, the point being is that he has got like an outside chance of getting back to the majors, right? He had the UCL and missed all of 2025, has come back, looked great. But just like Brandon Williamson, just like Carson Spires is now in that category for this year where he's going to miss the whole year probably. And Julian Aguiar, this could be his season that he gets up, he can make some spot starts and maybe make the actual like big league club for whatever, maybe some injuries or maybe some guys not pitching as well, or the innings restrictions are on Lauder and Burns, for example, and Williamson. It could be Julian Aguiar season for me. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, he kind of forced his way up. I mean, granted, 2024 there was a lot of injuries to the rotation, and he earned a promotion. But I think it wasn't like they just picked a guy like last year. Like Chase Petty had to come up last year, and he clearly wasn't ready. Aguiar was ready. I mean, he had some good outings. I mean, yeah, he had an ERA over 4 for the season, but he looked the part. And I was actually at the game where they played Oakland, I believe, and they came back and won. I think it was Lawrence Butler had the 3 home run game that game. Will Benson about hit one out of the stadium, but yeah, he looks the part. He went to a small school. He's kind of a tad undersized if you go by major league pitchers, but I like him a lot. I wrote about him a couple years ago as like a prospect to watch, and for some reason this is totally off tangent, but there was like a stretch in time where I would write about a prospect and like the next day they would get called up, and I wrote about his performance in Louisville, and like the next day the Reds like, hey, we're promoting Julian Aguilar. I was like, what? No way. But yeah, I mean, he looked the part, and I'm excited to see him get more consistent outings. And it was unfortunate with the UCL injury, especially with the timing of it. It was him and Brandon Williamson back to back, like within a few days of each other.
Yeah.
And it just, what are the odds of that? But yeah, I'm excited to see him have a full season.
For sure. And then there's the other, I think this was the more obvious one of the guys. And we talked about it a lot actually in that Friday show that we did, because that was right after the spring breakout game. Chase Petty obviously is another guy to watch. We've said a lot of glowing things because he looks like he's back finding the strike zone a lot and with different pitches, a la Sonny Gray type of thing. But like, what are your thoughts on Chase Petty in 2026?
Yeah, I think it can be said I'm a huge Chase Petty fan too, and I would, other than Hendrick being my favorite Reds prospect probably of all time, I would say my 2 favorite prospects in the organization currently that are, on the cusp of major league time are Chase Petty and Cam Collier. And to me, like Chase Petty, we kind of touched on it a bit on Friday night that, he's kind of been that forgotten guy too, along with Cam Collier, that they were okay with, you package Petty and Collier into a trade and you go get Luis Robert or whoever it may be. And I think that's a disservice to the players that Cam Collier and Chase Petty can be, because as you know, Luis Roberts had some pretty rough years over the last couple of years, and you're trading away, first round pick talent in Petty and Collier, and they're both 22 years old, 21 years old. So it's like, I'm not willing to give those two up for a player that hasn't hit 230 in 3 years. But yeah, Petty last year, 6-13, 6.39 ERA. Major league level, 3 games, 0-3, 19.50 ERA in 6 innings. 3.67 whip. Not great, but the outing at this spring has me excited. And then the spring break game, just 4 innings, 1 hit, no walks, 6 strikeouts. Like that, he looked like Sonny Gray out there, and his fastball allegedly hit 102.1 miles per hour. I think I found the pitch where it happened.
Yeah.
And I think it happened just because he was averaging 97, 98 the whole game, and it kind of went, it was a left-handed batter, high and tight. It looked like he just kind of overthrew it. So maybe it did. Maybe it didn't. Maybe StatCast was wrong that day. But I mean, it wasn't just a fastball for him. His slider was working, his breaking ball was working, his changeup was working. And if he's locating those pitches, then you're seeing the evolution of Chase Petty becoming a major league caliber pitcher.
Yeah.
And with the injuries to Nick Lodolo potentially having extended time gone, and Hunter Green, I think just today it was announced he was put on the 60-day IL. So that opened up the roster spot for Nathaniel Lowe. You can look at Chase Petty. He doesn't have to have the pressure on him to be, hey, Chase, we need you to be ready in April, But this season, kind of having that major league experience already and looking confident this year and locating his pitches, I think that this year he could really take that next step and be ready to actually take on that major league role.
Absolutely. And confidence is key because it looked like he lost all his confidence last year. Maybe he was tinkering in some stuff in AAA, but he was not pitching well even in AAA toward the end of last year. So hopefully that confidence is back for our guy, Chase Petty. But yeah, and then another guy to shout out, Jose Franco, the Reds minor league pitcher of the year in 2025. Looked pretty decent this spring. I think they pitched him in 2 games. And
3 games, 3.86 ERA and 4 2/3, 8 strikeouts.
Right, exactly. So that's the thing is like I think we're talking about who debuts first later in the show, but I think he debuts this year. He hasn't yet, so I think he'd be a guy. I'm not exactly sure when, if that'll be maybe in the summer months or maybe later, but I think we see Jose Franco up at the big league club in 2026. That's what I at least putting out there for my take right now.
Yeah, Chase Petty this year in spring training, 2 games, 4 innings, 2 strikeouts. I think he had 2 walks. So he's and that's not including the spring breakout game. Just looks like a different pitcher out there. He looks way more confident, and I think that you're seeing the same thing with Matt McClain at the major league level. Just confidence is a huge part of a player's game. If you're not out there and you don't think you can do it, you're not going to do it. And I think just having that reset of an off season coming in to camp, you got 7 legitimate starters ahead of you on the depth chart, including Hunter Green and Lodolo and possibly Jose Franco. The pressure's kind of off of him, but it's going to be a very important year for him because you're going into your 5th year in the organization. Kind of got to prove it, but then we got to remember he's still just 22 years old.
Yeah, for sure. Any other thoughts on the starter? We haven't even got to the relievers, and the relievers just as stacked, or at least talent wise.
Yeah,
we got Zach Maxwell, Luis May, Kyle Nicholas. They got in the Tyler Callahan trade. TJ Antone, Hagen Danner, a guy that we were high on until he got optioned down. Lyon Richardson, company man, Lyon Richardson, Junior Marte, lefty Anthony Miskowitz. I mean, and then maybe a Trevor Kunzel, maybe a Hunter Parks. Maybe those kind of guys get into the AAA if things shake out. I don't know. They're only going to have 28 guys, and Fangraphs have 50 guys at AAA. So they'll definitely have to sort some things out. Any of those guys stand out right now in the bullpen for the AAA?
Yeah, I the one that I'm most intrigued by is Luis May, just because of his fastball. He's got closer stuff. It's just his command has been awful. I think the one that I want to talk about though is Hagen Danner. Just he was drafted as a catcher, and he converted into pitching during the COVID break where they didn't have a season.
Wow.
And I didn't know that about him when I originally, because I was looking up stats. I'm like, how has this guy been in the league so long? Like, what's going on? And I was like, oh, he's got hitting stats. He was a catcher.
Yeah.
There it is. Yeah. So he converted into a pitcher in the 2021 season, and he kind of climbed the ranks pretty quick. And he made his major league debut, and then I think 9 pitches into the second batter, he strained his oblique, and then they ended up releasing him, and he never made it back. And he's got a fastball that hits up in the upper 90s. He's got a really good slider. I think those are his 2 pitches that he uses the most, and I like his game. And for someone that's converted into a pitcher from a catcher, and that kind of gives us hope for Logan Tanner with how he is transitioning from a catcher into a pitcher. We'll talk about him on the low A portions of the show next week. But yeah, I mean, Hagen Danner, to me, I want to see him at AAA, and just to see what he does. And like, we're going to talk about Trevor Kunsel. I think that the depth ahead of him is kind of unfortunate for him, just because like there's some major league quality pitchers, but that's not a slight on Kunsel either, because I think he's major league caliber. I think he's close. And let's just say there's an injury at the major league level, and they bring up Maxwell May or Nicholas or Antone. Like, Kunsel's going to slide into a very important role in the AAA level, and if he shows off, he can very well be one of those next guys up too.
Yeah, just quick note, Logan Tanner, even though he's switching over to pitcher, is now on the IL, so he's getting that probably that soreness in his elbow treatment that you don't get as a catcher. But anyway, my guy to watch is Kyle Nicholas, and because they got him in the trade with Tyler Callahan, kind of a surprise trade by my thought process, because we kind of have a couple guys like May and Maxwell who are flamethrowers that are trying to get their location kind of down. And you kind of don't want a whole bullpen of those kind of guys, because you don't know exactly what you're going to get in any given day. So it was a bit alarming, because he's kind of that ilk. He's had some high walk rates in his time. Like he pitched 31 games for the Pittsburgh Pirates last year and averaged 4.3 walks per 9. So that's not great stuff for a guy that is kind of along the lines of throwing wild like May and Maxwell. So maybe he figures it out in AAA. They put him down in AAA because they only haven't seen him pitch. He's been at the World Baseball Classic, but supposedly he hadn't really pitched that much for Team Italy. He pitched at like 8 batters for like an inning and 2/3 or something like that. So he wasn't really like put much tape out there, to say the least. And I think they really want to see what they got in him in AAA, and we'll keep tabs on him to see, because if he's going to continue to have kind of that wild walk rate, we may not see him anytime soon. But like you said, injuries may happen, opportunities may arise, and they may have to call upon him or Hagen Danner or Luis May or Maxwell sooner than later if things should break that way. But yeah, up until then, we'll keep an eye on those guys for sure. Any other guys you want to point out or profile out there?
No.
It's a big list. You've got like
I was like scrolling through. I was like, there's so many. Like, there's an entire roster full of pitchers. Yeah,
the comeback season again for TJ Antone, coming back for a 3rd surgery. So there's one for that. But I think we kind of know what we got for the first guys that are possibly be called back up. Like Maxwell's got 3 options. So, if he's there, he might be possibly a part of the big league club sooner than later, maybe the first one up, if I had to guess, or a Lyon Richardson. But honestly, he's got no more options. So it may not be company man Lyon Richardson for a while, until they may or need him for sure, maybe to make a spot start or what have you. So we will see. We got a question in the chat. Carrick's asking, who are the 4th and 5th starters that you would put out there for your Louisville Bats?
You want me to do my 5 and then your 5?
Yeah.
So I'll just go through 5. I'll go 1 through 5. I'm going to have Petty 1, Franco 2, Aguiar 3, and then, man, that's tough. Jared Lyons and Kevin Abel.
Yeah, maybe Abel's a pretty solid pitcher probably pick there. I thought Lyon Richardson was more of the starter ilk. I don't know if that's just maybe a Fangraphs thing, not knowing that. I would have put Lyon Richardson possibly the 5th starter behind Kevin Abel or Lyons possibly. I'm not exactly sure what they're thinking there. I mean, they got lots of options at AAA as well. Sam Benshotter, Davis Daniel. I think he was a pickup this offseason as well. Brandon.
Eventually, you'll have Carson Spires coming back towards the end of the season.
Yeah.
Just recovering from Tommy John. I'm sure he'll. When did he have Tommy John? Like June, May?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we might see him back at AAA probably around August, September.
Yeah, for sure. Carrick saying LeBrant could be one of the guys there for 4th or 5th spot.
Yeah, for sure. Just having the older guys like Darren McCon and even Sam Benshotter. You know, he had some pretty good outings last year too. He's kind of like that hybrid Nick Martinez type starter reliever.
For sure. Yeah. So those are our pitchers to look forward to. AAA hitters. This will be also. It's not, I don't think, as deep or strong, but we've got some guys that will be making some waves, I think. At the very least, they'll be knocking on the door, as we like to say. It could go a totally lots of options. Like you had said, we kind of have a little bit of a logjam in the outfield. We possibly have, some situations where our first guy called up possibly is our guy Edwin Arroyo, who can be some depth in the infield or whatnot. That could be another option. We could also, have like a CES. Maybe he puts it together this year finally, and he maybe could possibly get some more major league at bats. He was the opening day starter, Ricky, by the way, in 2025. I don't know if you remember that. I tend to forget that because that was kind of a weird, wild time when Ty Steve got hurt. So Trevino's starting. Hunter Green obviously was healthy and was able to pitch pretty well in the opening day. But that's I totally forgot CES was starting first base, and then Candelario beat out I forget who else was part. He was the starting third baseman. But anyway, we're not talking about the Major League Club today. I guess the one guy I'm most interested in watching is a Hector Rodriguez and how he does as a full season at AAA. He was also another guy the Reds really value because they put him on the 40-man to be not picked by the Rule 5 draft, so they really like him, along with Edwin Arroyo and Elio Balcazar. So that's kind of an intriguing one for me. I really like Blake Dunn come around. Then you point out how Blake Dunn had a great end of 2025 and saw him in spring training. And you said that he's got a background being a football player, and I saw it for sure. He's really, really put together like a football player. So I'm really excited to see him possibly play every day or at least platoon a lot. He should be getting a lot of at-bats down there.
He's going to get a lot of center field time, I think.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I don't know if I think I've said possibly in this show that Hector may be the center fielder of the future. I don't know. He's been playing a lot of left field in spring training. I don't know if he's got the range to play center field even now or in the future. We will see. Maybe that's a different spot. Maybe Will Benson catches on and stays with the club a little bit longer than we'd predicted, or maybe a Marte learns the position or what have you. So I don't know. Where do you want to start for AAA hitters to watch?
Yeah, the one that I'm most excited about is Rhys Hines. Just the season that he had last year, he wins the Louisville MVP. 302 average, 24 home runs, 83 RBIs, 21 stolen bases, 922 OPS. He was another level in AAA last year. And had they had not gone out and signed JJ Bleday, traded for Dane Myers, and had all the other moves that they made, but Nathaniel Lowe kind of taking up that last spot to take away the extra outfield spot. I think that you probably see Rhys Hines at the major league team opening day roster, and I think he would have earned it. I'm interested to see because his career stats are 85 home runs, 83 stolen bases. He probably does that this year. He probably hits 80 home runs in AAA. He's on. I obviously kidding, but yeah, he's I think he's gonna do great. I'm excited if he can hit 302 again. It's gonna be hard to ignore to call him up. And for a team that we're actually seeing some power from the lineup, just being able to add an extra power bat with some speed in the outfield, who has a pretty solid arm and has made some nice plays in the outfield. Originally was a third baseman. We saw him last year kind of take some reps at first, like in a pinch, because we were getting nervous about first base depth. I'm excited about Reese Hines. Like, absolutely. I think he's going to be one to really keep an eye. He's still just 25. And like you said, he's a huge guy, 6'3". Like, he's just a massive human being. And then I guess another one too, we'll probably talk about him in the next segment too, is this Edwin Arroyo. He kind of gets overlooked for his offense because of how the power was down. He still hit 284. Like, that's a really good hitting season as far as average goes. Just the OPS was down to 716, but he's kind of a defense first shortstop, switch hitter. He's got 32 career home runs in the minor leagues, so I'm not too worried about the power. I think he's going to have a return this year, and I'm excited to see what he does this year too.
Yeah. Quick shout. Carrick is thinking the same. Hector, it can't play center field. I didn't see it in spring training. I don't think he's got the range. It may never. Another guy that hopefully I won't go too far down this path, because I don't want to curse or jinx this guy, but we definitely will be keeping tabs on Francisco Urbaez, a guy that seems to have the hitting profile, a hitting profile of what they want at the big league club. And I guess I'm more scratching my head, and I think same thing with Carrick and probably yourself, Ricky, as to why maybe he's not even getting any specific whispers, thoughts, process. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I wanted to give you your time on that.
I'm trying not to put him in a weird spot where I'm being his only guy that's out here, and then I end up having a River St. Martin moment where all of a sudden,
the next day.
Yeah, so now we'll see. I'm gonna be watching the MLB transition log all night. But anyway, he's definitely got to watch. It for sure is the starting second baseman for Louisville Bats, and then he did have an unfortunate winter ball where he had like an undisclosed back injury. And obviously it's also like translating from Spanish. They didn't really put too much detail in there. Missed like a month and a half of not playing baseball for the Winter League. And sometimes they rotate guys in and whatnot, bring in guys that didn't play at the beginning of the Dominican Winter League and whatever. And he ended up playing, I think, toward the end in the finals and lost to Hector Rodriguez's team, Escogido Leones. So, like, he had a decent offseason. Hopefully he can build upon that. His spring hasn't been spectacular, and I think he's on the roster to play tonight against the Brewers, so we'll see if he gets in for that as well. But go ahead.
I'll say this: just his season last year at 845 OPS, 314 batting average. He's going into his second full season in Louisville, and for a team that has not the most depth in the middle infield,
right?
It's not out of the realm of possibility he makes his major league debut this season.
I made that take earlier. I'm hopefully not going to live to regret that one, but we will see.
What's unfortunate for him, and it's obviously not his fault, is that he's 28, and that kind of hurts. Just prospect prowess, I guess. Just you get overlooked by players that are younger, but he's put up numbers at every level. Like, he's hit everywhere he's been, and he's been, I guess, a decent defender. I think that's kind of been his knock, is that he hasn't been great defensively.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think he might earn a shot this year.
This might be the year to do it for him, because I think he's got kind of a Matt McLain problem where they're not going to get rid of a Matt McLain or platoon a Matt McLain. Also, they got like a Leo Balcazar problem, because I think Leo Balcazar may be a future second baseman. Possibly because of the fact that you got Edwin Arroyo and Ellie, that even though that probably Leo will play every day at short for the Lookouts, he probably will be at the next level at AAA at second baseman, is my guess. But
yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, Carrick's a big fan of him as well. He always hits, so I'm not the only guy out here championing Francisco.
You're not screaming at the leaves.
Yeah, so we'll hopefully keep tabs on him and keep you guys informed on everything Francisco Urbaez. We'll even have a
I'm a
spin.
fan of his. I think if we'll be there if he debuts.
Yeah, for sure. A bunch of these guys will be nice to see make some debuts, which will lead us into our next part of the show. Who has their MLB debut first? It can be just some takes that you want to go with. It could be also, we can take a different direction, like who's going to get promoted from AA to AAA as well first. So like it was kind of just like a general topic to finish the show off and figure out which guys are kind of going to be, moved up in the organization. And Ricky, if you got a guy, the floor is yours.
So as far as players moving up from AA to AAA, I think I'd probably go with Cam Collier being the first guy up. What kind of hurts with that a little bit is the first base depth at AAA. It's going to depend on how CES is doing and Ruben Ibarra, who's potentially going to be on AAA this year too, at least according to Fangraphs.
Yeah.
At third base, though, I could see Cam going up and being third base in AAA. Just there's not a whole lot of third base depth at AAA. You're looking at Michael Chavis, Garrett Hampson, and Trey Faltine. So
I want to say Yvonne Johnson might also play a bit third base. He kind of moves around.
So Cam could very well move up to AAA and play third base up there. And I think he's going to play a lot of first base in AA just because the depth that they have. It's him and John Michael Fail. Like that's their only first baseman unless he play Jack Moss gets promoted, but I don't know. Yeah, and then I guess as far as AAA players getting promoted to the major league team, I think just realistically, it kind of feels like it's Edwin Arroyo just off, an injury happens to McLean or Ellie. It's just the easiest move is to just slide him up. But I'm not going to rule out a Hector Rodriguez, although there's just so much outfield depth ahead of him that could move up and be major league ready. I don't want to take all the picks away, so I'll let you have one.
No, for sure. CES is going to play a lot of third base. Carrick's putting out there, and that makes sense because I don't know if he has a position up at the major league team right now, unless
I don't think his bat's going to be up the major league level.
Yeah, so there's that as well. I do agree that I think Balcazar may go up to AAA this year, just to do that to go from AA to AAA. And it could be anywhere around the diamond, like Carrick's pointing out here. I think they see him very flexible, and I think they for sure see Edwin Arroyo as a shortstop first and foremost. And we'll have to figure out that issue whenever the Ellie issue comes up as well. I think I'll try to take a different tact. I think it's actually the first guy called up for a major league debut will be a pitcher. And I think it possibly could be like a Jose Franco type of situation where they need a starter. They're in a pinch where, they don't want to move up guys, or, obviously they got that hybrid situation kind of going on with Lauder and Burns and Brandon Williamson and whatnot. So possibly I'm thinking Jose Franco might be the first guy to make his major league debut for a Cincinnati Red, or for the AAA guy up to the majors for the Cincinnati Reds. So that's my take.
Who do you got coming up from AA to AAA?
I said Leo.
Leo, okay.
Yeah, so I think that'll be it. I think Carrick's right. I think Maxwell gets the first call up, but he had his debut last year, right?
As far as major league debuts, we're gonna go with you. Yeah. I could see Franco being that first pitcher called up too. And then I think Arroyo is the offensive guy that has the highest chance of getting called up first.
Yeah.
Unless he's not performing and Urbaez is performing and you just bring up Urbaez.
Could be. You never know. I mean, it could just be a cup of coffee as well for either of them, just for some depth and whatnot. Obviously, I think they have a longer future plan with.
Yeah, and I guess kind of thinking logistically about it, I think you would feel more comfortable bringing up an Urbaez as a bench depth at the major league level, because you look at Arroyo, you're looking at him as like a future star on your team. So I don't think you would want to have him limited at bats like with South Stewart when he came up last year, you saw that they tried to work him in as much as they could without taking away at bats from other guys, even though they probably could have had Sal in there more, to be honest. But
Yeah.
you'd hate to see, like, I always bring it back up at the Jose Barrero situation where, he was killing it in AAA, and obviously it didn't work out for him long term. It still hasn't. He's still been floating around the minor leagues. I think he's in Baltimore now. But you look at how the kid was just setting the world on fire in AAA, and then they bring him up and they just don't play him. They kind of did the same thing with Nick Senzel when they brought him up. They brought him up. You kind of just see, we'll get him in there eventually kind of mentality. And I think that's kind of the David Bell thing is like, I don't think he wanted to hurt anybody's feelings about if he benched somebody for a rookie or whatever it may be. But then you're also bringing up a rookie who needs playing time at the major league level. And yeah, I mean, I think it would make sense for Baez to come up over Arroyo just for the fact that if it's for depth.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah, you don't want to just have a cup of coffee with a guy that you think that's going to be there for longer, or don't want to kind of move him up and down and play with his head and confidence and whatnot as well. So
yeah,
you'll see. And then that's kind of the thought process of what they said with Blade and Hines. They want to see them play every day. You know what I mean? If they are up at the major league level, they're not playing every day. That may hinder their development and the things the Reds want them to work on. So that's what the minors are for, is working out things, getting better, and being ready to be a major leaguer. So that's always something that, is kind of unique to baseball, right?
Yeah.
Working on the craft constantly. So, but yeah, you got any other takes or anything you got? I think we covered these guys well. Hopefully we'll know the roster soon and whatnot. And yeah.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Like, well, I guess the last guy I want to kind of touch on is just Carlos Jorge. Just him not kind of taking that leap into his development. I know he's been moved around. He was an infielder, and then now he's converted to an outfielder. A little bit harder, I guess, but his bat just hasn't translated yet. And then I think we might have talked about him a little bit, but Jay Allen, I want to see what he does this year because he probably could have been knocking on the door at AAA, but he just hasn't really performed either. And I think we probably see an outfield combination again of Hendrick and Allen in AA.
Yeah. Carrick saying that Jorge had a good second half of the season last year. If we could build on that as well. I guess there are some promotional things to get through. We have that promotion that Mike had set up. If you were watching the show yesterday, or if you didn't, there is a Nabel Mariano card giveaway. Check out our X, our YouTube, our Facebook for all that. You just have to follow our socials. Will be entered into a drawing that could win that card of a signed Nabel Mariano card, courtesy of the Hit Machine at Hit Machine Cards. He's an eBay seller of baseball cards. Got that card especially for us. He was very gracious, and he's working with us to create some sort of partnership, drive up some interest in our show and to Mike's show, All Gloves Off, which will be on tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, All Gloves Off, Lights Out Sports Podcast on All Gloves Off, SM Media. So, we got a lot of things coming down. And then also, Ricky, I don't know if you want to talk about our Wednesday show that's coming up. We filmed that, and we're going to be putting that out there for you guys. Kind of a segment part of this show, but we're going to kind of break it up and put it in different parts of the week.
Yeah, we're working on like a 10 to 20 minute segment on a prospect. Prospects to know. We're having a lot of fun. We have our first one coming out Wednesday. I guess we can go ahead and say who it's on. It's Prospects to Know with Alfredo Duno, and I think it's going to be a good segment to have. Just obviously, we wanted to start off with someone that everybody knows, but eventually we're going to get the guys you don't know, or unless you're sickos like us, you know who they are. We're going to talk about guys like Jacet Martinez and Angel Celio. A lot of DSL guys that we've made acquaintances with, Moises Castillo, guys like that. And, that could be a very cool thing to do. We could maybe even do some Instagram DM Q&As with them to get them, on the show that way, because language barriers and all that. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We're kind of working out the kinks with that live on the air, but they're probably not going to be weekly. It just depends on who we talk about and how much time we have between all the other stuff we're doing. But yeah, Alfredo Duno, Prospects to Know, coming out Wednesday.
Yep. Check that out. Subscribe, like, comment, hit the notification so you know when that video comes out. We're going to be doing kind of pre-recorded stuff like that going forward, featuring guys like Alfredo Duno and others, so that you can get to know them a lot better and get to know us a little bit better on how we feel about these prospects, and some, insights and information and stats about these guys. That's basically the genesis of that. Also, just like this show, that was the genesis of that. We wanted to separate out our minor league section of content to this show, Minor League Mondays. So we're really glad that you joined us today. We will also have this up on our podcast forum of Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio. Please, subscribe there. Give us a 5-star review for that. And we're really appreciative of all the fans that have flocked to us. We're growing. You can
also comment on Spotify. I didn't know if you knew that. You can leave comments on Spotify.
Yeah,
we will see them.
Yeah, well, hopefully all good, because sometimes anyway. But yeah, we really appreciate it. We're trying to grow. We're trying to get bigger and give you guys most, all the content that you desire for this team, because it's a lot. Like we're doing all the way from the DSL all the way up to the big league club, and really appreciate all the love and support that we've got so far. And yeah, the season's about to start, Ricky. I don't know about
3 days away.
Yeah.
3 days away.
And the bats start on Friday, so get the calendars out for that. They're already getting going for minor league baseball. So yeah, looking forward to it. Looking forward to working more with you, Ricky. It's really been a pleasure for me just to do this and kind of you put up with my yammering.
No, no one else. I want to hear you yammer.
All right, fair enough. So on that note, we will sign off and say, go Reds.
Go Reds.